The Downtown Rams podcast is brought to you by Rams On Demand, Seat Giant, Vibe 305, and RWO, Rams World Order. Now enjoy the show.
Down the middle, to the end zone, caught by Brandon Cooks. Shoot your arrows.
It's Pitts. Nickel Roby Coleman
throws. End zone caught, touchdown. Tyler Higbee. Cooper Kupp plucks it out of the air and gives the Rams the lead. LaMarcus Joyner returns to the lineup with an interception in London. 35-30. Robert Woods, first down 20. 10-5. Touchdown. LA! No, it's Goff who keeps it. And Goff goes crashing into the end zone. Aaron Donald almost beat the football there and comes away with his third sack of the afternoon. Met immediately and sacked. Corey Littleton, have yourself a day. And he gets gobbled up. Savage has to eat it as Michael Brockers picks up the sack. He's decked by Ebu Tom. Picked off. Marcus Peters. Strutting his stump. Mark Barron the last 4 weeks has been a Pro Bowler.
Oh, it's picked off on the play by John Johnson.
After the throw, and we mentioned that is his 8th completed pass in his career.
Cousins sacked. Ndamukong Suh. Of all the guys, it's the rookie John Franklin Myers who knocks it out of Cousins' right hand. Todd Gurley, 20, 10. Gurley for MVP.
Welcome back, guys, to another Downtown Rams podcast. It's episode 176, and it's draft season edition. We had a lot of free agency stuff, but the Rams really haven't made many moves. So we're back with the draft, and when there's moves, when there's news, there will be, Rams-centric podcasts, but when there's not, we're going to look at the Rams and their upcoming potential draft picks. And this episode, I have Alexis Kraft join me. I have two stud linebackers. We start off with Minnesota linebacker, who's really made waves since the Combine. But if you haven't watched the film yet, I recommend it. Blake Cashman. He is a former walk-on who basically had to work his tail off to get to the end goal, which was becoming a starting linebacker for his team and, being a captain. And then, on top of that, we have another linebacker from USC. So all you Los Angeles fans that like USC, well, we have a treat for you. Cameron Smith is coming on as well. So it's going to be an awesome dual linebacker podcast. It's a position I think, the Rams could definitely end up targeting. Obviously, you look, and, Corey Littleton's been tendered, so they'll have him. Mark Barron was released. He's potentially coming back. And, there are some other guys there. Micah Kaiser they drafted in the 5th round. And, I like the linebackers that they have on the roster right now, but the Rams could definitely use some more. And I think they could draft a starter in this draft, and both of these guys could be up there as an opportunity. So we're not going to spend too much time on this. Just wanted to throw it out there. Also, if you like the show, please, if you can, subscribe on iTunes. It helps us out. It gets the content to you quicker. We're also on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play Music. So, we're on YouTube as well. If you want to, look up Downtown Sports Network YouTube, we are on there. But yeah, so I think that's gonna do it for this little intro and on to the podcast. First, we're starting with Blake Cashman, and then we finish it off with Cameron Smith, and we got some more interviews coming up down the road. So keep it right here for all your podcasts, your Rams, your draft information, analysts, news, whatever, and enjoy the show. All right, guys, joining us on the show, we have Minnesota linebacker Blake Cashman. How's it going, Blake? Thank you so much for coming on.
I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me on. My pleasure.
Of course. We're excited to talk to you. And just to start this thing, I just want to know, how old were you when you started playing football, and how did that process come about?
Well, I've been playing football ever since I could walk, really. But like the first time I was able to throw on the helmet and shoulder pads and start hitting people was in third grade. So I was about 8 or 9 years old, I believe.
And of course, I have to ask you because, starting from, football at a young age, and I'm sure you watched a lot of NFL, who was your favorite player growing up?
My favorite player, without a question, was Brett Favre. I just loved how competitive he was and how much energy he brought to every game, no matter if, Green Bay was a playoff contender or not. So he was very exciting to watch, a lot of fun, and he looked like he was a good dude to have around your organization.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely a generational player in Brett Favre and someone who's very exciting to watch. And then something I want to touch on is what was it like for you winning the state championship your senior year of high school?
It was very special. When I grew up, where I went to high school, we won a lot of football games, and, we had a championship tradition, and there was an expectation playing on the football team that, you'd work hard and you would prepare every week to win on Friday nights. And, our community was very involved, and it was very important to everyone that, we would be contending for a state championship every year. So definitely, in my opinion, I know myself and my other classmates at the time, we definitely felt a lot of pressure. But, with any competition, pressure is exciting and makes it, part of the fun. So, winning the state championship my senior year, it was a different road than we were used to. The past 3 years we had won the state championship. We kind of dominated teams, and it wasn't much of a game. But my senior year, we were actually losing every game going into halftime in the playoffs. So we always had to fight tooth and nail to come back and overcome adversity. So it was very special, and definitely memories I'm never going to forget.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Never forget where you come from. Clearly you haven't. Sticking with high school, you started at safety, and obviously you've made the transition pretty well to linebacker, and it's early on in your career. We've seen players like Alec Ogletree, Mark Barron, Dion Buchanan move from the safety position to the linebacker position, and I just got to ask you, I don't know how easy it was for them to transition, but, what was your experience like transitioning from safety to linebacker?
It went very smooth. I think the biggest adjustment making this change was just your run fit. At safety, a lot of times, you're starting 12 yards off the ball at least, and your first step is a back pedal. So you definitely get to see the whole kind of overview of what's going on with the offensive line, any of the moving parts with pulling guards or whatnot. And so you definitely see the holes open up, and it's very clear where you need a fit. You're also easily able to make people right. But at linebacker, you got guys, big strong guys coming at you real fast, and you have to be very reactive, and there's not much room for hesitation. So that was the biggest adjustment, in my opinion.
Yeah, and so you play in high school, and then it becomes time for you to go to college. What made you choose to go to Minnesota?
Well, I would definitely say a lot of it came down to where I had opportunity to play football, because I wanted to play at the highest level possible, and that was always a dream of mine. But I grew up my whole life just outside of the Minneapolis area, where University of Minnesota's campus is, and my family is they're all big Gopher fans. I think almost every single uncle and aunt and cousin of mine went to the University of Minnesota, so it was just kind of a tradition and something that we all did. So to choose Minnesota, play in the Big Ten, and to be a local kid and have so many friends and family support you, were all factors of why I chose to go there.
Yeah, and then, you go there and obviously you end up earning your scholarship after being a walk-on. What was that whole experience like? Because, it doesn't mean – it kind of goes to show you it doesn't matter, how many stars you have coming out. I mean, you've seen J.J. Watt is the famous, walk-on story that, walked on at, Wisconsin, ends up being, one of the best players in the league. So, I mean, what's your whole story like, and what was that experience like?
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many football players across the country that get overlooked and have to take maybe the tougher road to earn an opportunity to play at the level that they're capable of playing at. I mean, it's just impossible for all these scouts and recruiters to find, guys that don't have a lot of hype to their name because they don't go to these big like scouting combine things like the US the US Nike Open or something like that the top 350 recruits go to. So things like that, if you're not there, you're going to get overlooked. But as a walk-on, the one thing you need to do when you walk into your school is to believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to make it. And I went in with the mindset that I was just as talented as all these other guys that had scholarships. And although we're a family and a brotherhood, I was going to compete with them every day, make them better as long as make myself better. So, it was something that I carried like a chip on my shoulder, where every day I was motivated to get better, to start striving for my goals, which my goals were to get on the field as soon as possible, earn a scholarship, and become a starter. And I was fortunate enough to do that. And, I honestly prefer that route, the way I did it, just because I think it made me a better football player, and it continued to push me and motivate me every day.
Absolutely. And another thing, from college that I'm just curious about is during college, you kind of went through multiple coaching changes at the University of Minnesota. What was that like? Was that a challenge at all, or was it done in a way that made the transition smooth and everything was cohesive?
Yes, it was very challenging. It's not easy to lose coaches, especially when you work with a lot of these guys every day. You develop relationships, you get to know their families. So, when they're not your coach anymore, those relationships come to an end real fast. And a lot of times those guys get coaching opportunities at schools very far away. So, it's a very weird deal, but it's part of the business of the game. And as we grow older and start to understand more, it's just something that you sometimes have to expect. It can happen at any moment. But, I thought myself and my team included, we adapted to the transition really well. The first coaching change wasn't too bad at all. I mean, we kept most of our original staff on hand, but the third time when we got Coach PJ Fleck, he cleaned house, and it was a lot of new faces we had to get. And at first it was really hard, but he did a fantastic job at, trying to ease all the tension and nerves and anxiety, whatever anyone was feeling, just try to make everyone feel comfortable and bring us in and make us, one unit, one family. And he's a very caring coach. He's very energetic. And so when he came, he just brought a lot of excitement to kind of take away anything negative that people on the staff or players were thinking. So the transition, I thought, worked really well, and I'm very excited for what's ahead for Gopher football.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. If I'm not mistaken, I believe PJ Fleck came from Western Michigan, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, I mean, they went, 12-1 or 13-0, and I mean, they were very impressive. So you can tell that guy was obviously on the rise, and he goes there, and of course he's going to have his opportunity now, being able to recruit his own guys. Of course, he won't have you though, so that'll be a little bit of a challenging thing. But when I look at your story, I see a lot of good things. Obviously, that'll translate well to the NFL because you'll oftentimes see guys and they're just not ready for the spotlight. They're not ready to kind of just have everything, kind of given to them. And to me, you've worked hard for everything you've gotten. I mean, you come on as a walk-on. That's the first thing that really stands out to me. I know I'm getting a football player that had to, basically work his tail off just to get a scholarship. And then, you come from a special teams background, then to rotational linebacker, and then eventually starter and captain your senior year. You had 20 tackles in a game I watched. It was pretty incredible. You're just somebody highly productive, and then, everyone's always looking to kind of pick apart somebody. Well, you go to the combine and, you kind of just show off there. So, I think your stock is certainly, started to rise, as the draft kind of rolls along.
I appreciate that. It definitely it makes me happy to hear that people are saying more good things about me than bad, because, at the end of the day, you never know when you're going to get picked in the draft or if you're going to get drafted at all. And you don't know necessarily where you're going, but everyone that's in my position just wants an opportunity and a chance to prove themselves.
Of course. And, we're talking about your time in college. Do you have a favorite memory playing football for Minnesota?
I have definitely a few that stick out. I think one of them that I feel really is important to me is my first game. We were playing TCU. At the time, they were the number 2 ranked team in the nation and had a lot of talent across the board. And they came into our stadium. It was the season opener. I think it was like a Thursday night in August, and it was a really exciting game. The atmosphere was electric, and it was my first game as a true freshman walk-on, and I was out on the field playing. I remember I ran down on kickoff. I was so nervous. I couldn't think. I could barely breathe, and just trying to take it all in, and at the same time do my job. And I'm running down the field, and I ended up making a really good tackle on their kick returner, I think inside like the 15-yard line, to pin them back in their own territory. And the game was just back and forth the entire time. So it was a big play in the second half that I made. And it was just very exciting because all my teammates were pumped up for me because I was a freshman and made my first career tackle. And just like I said, the atmosphere of the game just kind of made it more exciting as well. So that kind of sticks out to me a lot, just because, a lot of times when people talk about me or describe me as a player, they start with my special teams play. And, that was my first big play in college football, and it happened to be my freshman year on special teams.
Yeah, without a doubt. And, obviously you played in, the FBS, and you played against some, top-notch competition. With that being said, who would you say was the toughest opponent you went up against in college? And by opponent, I mean like one-on-one matchup or a player on the other team that really just stood out to you.
We've played a lot of great football players. I think, definitely this past year, Dwayne Haskins, quarterback for Ohio State. Talk about somebody that's big body, has a fantastic arm, good with his reads, and just the perfect picture of what a NFL quarterback should look like. So, he was somebody that gave us a lot of challenges. But, another guy I think of is Saquon Barkley. We went and played Penn State my sophomore year, and we ended up losing to them in overtime because Saquon Barkley took a 29-yard touchdown run or something like that to the house, and that's how we ended up losing. But, he's obviously had a fantastic career so far in the NFL, and I'm sure he'll have many more great years.
For sure. Definitely a guy that doesn't seem easy to go up against by any means. But, you go from a special teamer to a rotational linebacker to starting linebacker, and now you're about to enter the NFL. And we've kind of talked about this and touched on this a little bit, but I'm just curious, what is that like? Is there anything, do you kind of ever take time to sit back and soak that all in, or do you kind of just for now push it to the back of your head as you focus on getting ready for the draft? And or have you taken a moment to just kind of to look back on your story? And if so, what is that like for you?
Yeah, I definitely have taken time to kind of reflect on my experience and how it's gone for me. And, I'm really happy with how everything turned out. And, I hope my story can be motivating for other kids that are coming out of high school that are thinking about walking on, because, it's a very scary decision. You at times, you're making a big adjustment to your life coming from high school to choosing a college, and it's a big change. So you want to do something that maybe necessarily what feels most comfortable. But, if you have a dream and you have big ambitions, I think as long as you have heart, you got to take a chance on yourself. So I just, I always love to share my story just because, you never know who's listening and who needs to hear it. And I think that's really important. But, just my whole time in Minnesota has been, I like to look at it as something where I've just had to respect the whole process of how you transition into not only a better person, but a better football player. And you have to be patient because, you may be the stud coming out of your high school your senior year, but you got to take the back seat and, not play your freshman year red shirt or just contribute on special teams. So it just shows you that you have to have patience and every day continue to work hard and get better. And you're going to get your opportunity, but it takes time, and you have to continue just to remember that and apply effort in what you're doing every day.
I mean, those are, it's a great answer, and those are some great words of encouragement and advice. And obviously, you just seem like one of the most humble guys, so, obviously we'll be rooting for you. But I want to ask you, kind of switching gears a little bit, the NFL Combine, I mean, I touched on it briefly earlier. I think you let every, casual fan in the NFL that turned on the Combine know, you're kind of here to stay. Obviously, they need to turn on the tape and watch what you do on the football field and not just in, a shirt and shorts. But, I mean, regardless, you balled out, at the Combine. What was your experience like there? And, if you have any crazy stories or anything, crazy questions that you were asked, definitely feel free to share those as well.
Yeah, that's a popular question. I didn't have anything crazy happen to me. I didn't have any questions that were just completely off the wall, unexpected. I totally, going into it, expected to get at least one really weird question. But luckily, I didn't have to. A lot of it was just questions, getting to know me, and we're there for football. So there was a lot of questions to test your IQ on the game. But my experience, it was great. It was something I'll never forget. It was something that not a lot of people get to experience. So I definitely didn't take it for granted. But, talk about an event where you can be around the best of the best from around the country and to get to know those guys and hopefully have relationships that carry over into the NFL that you may be playing with or against one day very soon. But that was very exciting. And then to, you're there almost to network and try to talk to as many teams as possible. So, you're busting your butt, running around, doing all these activities, but at the same time, trying to connect with as many coaches as possible and take advantage of the time. And then obviously all the measurables and testing they do, you want to do well, and you prepare for 2-3 months to make sure that you perform at your highest capability. And, I was very pleased with how it turned out for me. So, it was a very positive experience, especially having it go well with all the testing and interviews. So it was something I'm really going to cherish forever.
Absolutely. I mean, it definitely, as you mentioned, it's a special experience to, be able to compete in the Combine. And I'm sure, you will, as you said, remember it forever. And it's, absolutely incredible. But, just to kind of hear in your words and in your opinion, what in your opinion is your biggest strength as a player?
I think it's my versatility. I feel like I'm a guy that can be put in many different spots, whether it's on special teams or defense, and I can do that job very well. And I consider myself a smart football player. I graded out pretty well all year on the pro football focus grading scale, and so I would feel very comfortable with wherever they put me, whether it be inside or outside linebacker. If you have me doing a lot of coverage or blitzing a lot, whatever the defensive packages may be, I would, just love to help a team out wherever they need help.
Yeah, and then, with that being said, what would you say is an area, in your game that you could improve more on?
Something I want to improve on is man-to-man coverage skills on tight ends, just because, I'm someone that, loves to prepare myself, and I'm always looking ahead. And going into the NFL, you get a lot of tight ends that, play more like receivers. They're very athletic on top of being big and lengthy as it is. So, just continue to work on that and understanding how to get into better position and being more disciplined with your eyes and hands, because there is some rule changes from college to the NFL. So that's definitely something, as I go into this next step in my football career, is that I know I'm going to need to continue to work on.
And this is just kind of a fun question we have, just to kind of get to know you, I guess, a little bit. But, which NFL player would you like to force a game-winning play for your team on? I mean, a game-winning interception, a forced fumble, a touchdown-saving tackle. Who in the NFL would you love to just, pick off or tackle for a game-winning play?
That's a great question. I think I would like to make maybe like a goal line saving tackle, probably against Le'Veon Bell, just because he's such a shifty back. He's very talented. He can run the ball, but he also is very effective in the passing game. And he's someone I've, obviously this past season I didn't get to watch at all, but I've always enjoyed watching his play.
Yeah, it sounds to me like you want to play against the Jets.
I'll play whoever wants to give me a chance.
I like that. With that being said, we are a Rams podcast, so I'm glad you didn't say Todd Gurley. But have you met with the Los Angeles Rams yet? And if you have you scheduled a private visit with them?
I did meet with them. I spoke with them twice at the Combine. I thought, when I was meeting with the coaches and scouts, I thought it went really well. I actually really enjoyed what they were teaching me in the interview. I have not scheduled any private workouts or meetings with them since, and I'm not sure if they're going to be at my pro day or not, which is coming up here in 2 weeks. But I was when I walked away from my interview with the Rams, I was very happy, and I really felt like they had a great organization, just based off the people and the culture that that's there.
Well, we certainly like to hear that, and obviously we really hope that you end up in Horns and end up in LA as a Ram. But if not, we're for sure going to be fans of you no matter where you go, and we'll be supporting you the entire time. But, just to wrap it up, who is Blake Cashman as a player, and who is he as a person?
Well, as a player, I'm somebody that, guarantees that I'm going to come in and I'll work my butt off. It's something that I pride myself on. It's how I've gotten this far, just in my football career. And I really value preparation. I think that's one of the most important things in the game of football you don't win the game on Sundays, you or Mondays or Thursdays, whenever you're playing. You win the game during the week by film, meetings, walkthrough practice, by out preparing your opponents. That's something I really believe and I think is very valuable. And then, I think, like I said earlier, I'm a very versatile player. I'm an athletic player. I can run well, cover from sideline to sideline. I'm an effective blitzer. And then, I think I read the run well, which you need to be able to do as a linebacker. And those are all things that I think make me a great football player, and why I believe that I would be a good pick for any team that's looking to take a chance on me. But as a person, I'm a very simple guy. I love to be around other people, surround myself with good company, and it doesn't matter what we're doing, whether it's fishing on the lake or going bowling. I like to be around my friends and family. I'm big into serving and giving, volunteering. That's something that is very important at University of Minnesota and just our football program there. If you watch any videos or look at anything online regarding the Minnesota Gopher football team, you're going to see our community outreach program and how active we are in the community. And that's something that I've always valued in my life. I get it from my mom. She worked in a nonprofit when I was very young, so it's something I've always was surrounded by. But I'm very hardworking, dedicated young man looking to extend my football career.
We love it, man. That's an awesome answer. We really appreciate you taking the time. Know you're busy. Know you're kind of the center of the attention right now, at least in some facet. And we know you'll be having those private visits, and of course you got to get ready for your pro day. So just really appreciate you taking the time, Blake. It means a lot, and we'll be fans for life, but we also would love to stay in touch.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And thank you for having me on. I was happy to do it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Blake. Take care.
You too.
Later, Blake.
Bye.
All right, guys. Joining the show, USC Trojan linebacker heading into the NFL draft, Cameron Smith. How's it going, man? Thanks for stopping by.
Things are good. Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. We're excited to talk to you and, just to get this thing rolling. Tell us a little bit about how did you start playing football and kind of how old were you when you started to play?
My parents signed me up when I was 6. It was my first year. Yeah, it was, I played a lot more baseball and I wrestled, when I was like from sixth grade year to my junior year of high school. So those are really the other two sports that I played the most. But football has always been a huge part of my life. And after that first year, kind of just trickled down, and it was always the thing that I did from summer to December.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's awesome. We always love, finding out, where your whole football story started. And, with that being said, you probably watched the NFL. Was there a favorite player that you had growing up?
Growing up, I watched a lot of the Niners play. I saw most of their games, just because I was, a fan of what my dad was, and so, but from a few years that the Niners were really competing and playing, I liked watching a lot of their defense and Justin Smith and Patrick Willis. Those guys were all fun to watch, but growing up, I couldn't think of anybody right now off the top of my head that was my favorite.
Yeah, and you were a highly decorated player in high school. What was your high school football experience like?
Oh, high school football was a blast. We had in my class of friends. It was a big group. We were all really close, and we spent a ton of time together, just kind of doing a lot of stuff off the field, and we were always kind of outside. I guess you could say, we were playing around, just like we were never really sitting inside, playing video games. We were always out, and so that just made the rest of the team just really close. And high school football was, I don't know, just something about playing with all your friends, and kind of like, I guess, a little bit different than what the next two levels bring. I mean, I haven't played a game in the NFL yet, but just college, you get so many different people from different backgrounds, and that I guess that camaraderie, or that just knowing the person next to you for the last 10 years, there's a lot of people that I knew my whole life that I was playing high school football with. So that just kind of adds to the part that what makes high school football. So I just had a blast. It was so much fun, and I always look back thinking, just what I do to go play one more game on Friday night with all my friends, and so that was a really fun time for me.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Obviously not forgetting where you came from. I love it. But I have to ask you because, I'm actually a USC football fan myself. I have been watching USC for a while, and I'm a huge fan of your game. What made you want to be a USC Trojan and ultimately play your football there?
I felt like it was just the best fit for me at the time. The education and the ability to have a life outside or of football and after football. That played a huge role for me. And then obviously the football tradition of it and the ability for me to walk in and contribute early. I got to play as a freshman, and I think that was a huge reason why I went there, was to be able to have the opportunity to go play as a freshman. So, and then, it's only an hour plane ride from home. So it was just, I felt like it was the best fit for me in all worlds. And at that time, I thought it was just the place for me at that right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that I'm just curious to know is, what was it like to play for Coach Clay Helton?
It was great. I got to experience Coach Sarkisian, and I guess not necessarily compare them, but just just experience two different people and two different styles. And, I think that goes a long way in today's world, is, having to make relationships with with a couple of different bosses, I guess. And, it teaches you a lot about, I don't know, like the business in general, and just kind of what it takes to succeed all over the place. I think it just makes you more well-rounded. But I loved playing for Coach Helton. I thought he was, I always turn a corner and I see his face, and it was like, I felt like he always had a time for me. He was there for me. He was, he cared about all of his players that he had around him. And I just thought he did a great job of making you feel like, you're important, and he's always there for us. And, whatever we needed, he was there to make it easier for us. So I thought, he's such a great guy, and, I'm lucky to have experienced 3 years with him.
Yeah, of course. And, obviously you guys started off, really struggling to start the season with, the kid by the name of Sam Darnold. He comes in and you guys end up winning it out, and you end up beating Penn State in the Rose Bowl game. And, there's definitely a chance that'll end up being, your answer to this question. But I want to know what your favorite memory was at USC.
Well, the Rose Bowl was obviously really special, just because, it's something you dream of as a kid playing in. I was kicked out in the third quarter. So ultimately the win was, one of the best memories for me, but that game not necessarily was. The season was really special, but, I look back and I think about the Pac-12 championship game, just because, how much we had fought through, and it was the first time in, I want to say, I think it was 8 years that the Pac-12 South team won the Pac-12. And it was just, this season that we had to battle through some stuff. And I just felt like that was a game and a time that, like, I'll remember forever, as well as obviously the Utah game my freshman year where I had 3 picks. So they're just great experiences overall. And so much being able to walk in and play in a Coliseum. And I mean, looking back over the last 4 years, we just got to do so much that, we played in Alabama. We played Notre Dame once a year. we played Ohio State, played Stanford several times. So there's so many great games and a lot of good experiences. So I don't know, but those two, I guess, stand out the most to me.
Yeah, and you got the chance to play on a defense with guys like Porter Gustin, Marvell Tell, and Iman Marshall. I mean, what was that like, and what do you feel that those guys bring to the next level?
We were all together for 4 years. We all pretty much contributed, I guess, the same amount of games played. We all were pretty much on the field or starting as freshmen, and so I thought what they brought so much to our team towards the end of our, we all did towards the end of our career, and just in our experiences and just maturity and how to. It's always, I guess, just more comfortable having people that have played, alongside you for a long time. So I thought, we all kind of added that together. But I think they're all just, those are three freak athletes. Marvell and Porter and Iman, they're all just, they're special. And, I think they work really hard, and they did a lot for the USC program and kind of helping us move forward. And we won a lot of games with all of them. So, yeah, they're all special pieces to our defense.
Yeah, I definitely could see that over the years. Just watching this team grow, and obviously Uchenna Nwosu is right in there. He ended up getting drafted by the Chargers, but I gotta ask you, who's the toughest player? I mean, you had a lot of guys on your own team, but who was the toughest player that you went up against in college?
I'd probably say Saquon Barkley or Quentin Nelson. Those two we kind of knew how special they were when we played them. So, it just kind of got you psyched up, and you just kind of that game, seeing them across from you, you just kind of felt it a little bit more. So I thought those two players were really dominant, especially against us. They played really well against us. So I thought those two players were something that, or two people that were just extremely tough and made our lives a lot harder than we would like it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, Barkley and Nelson are two guys who are at the top of their position, honestly, and I can imagine that it wouldn't be easy to go up against them at all. But you actually got the chance to play in the Senior Bowl this year. So what was that experience like? And what was it like to go down there and just be surrounded by such talented athletes from all over the country?
The Senior Bowl was, it was a long week. It was going there and having to practice and pick up a defense, and as well as being interviewed and having to always be on pretty much from 6 or 7 a.m. to midnight. So it was a long week, but it was really, like you said, it was a really good experience, and I learned a ton, and just being able to play with some new guys and work with an NFL staff, it was a really beneficial week. But I don't know if I'd ever go back. Like I said, it's just it brings some of these even the combine and the Senior Bowl just puts pressure on you, and that's how it's supposed to be. And it's luckily we get to do it all together. It's 330 guys, or I think there's maybe 90 guys at the Senior Bowl. So it's how it's supposed to be, and it should be that way. But they're definitely not easy weeks. So, but I learned a lot for sure.
Yeah, it's always funny with that answer because, I mean, if you were to ask somebody like me, like I was at the Senior Bowl, but I mean, we had two different, sets of weeks. I mean, it was more, I was doing the covering and the interview, and you're the one out there, you're working. And, I actually tried to get an interview with you on the field, but man, you got mobbed. I went over and I think you had like a bunch of scouts near you. So, I can only imagine. And really the weird thing, the way they do that, Cameron, is like, I mean, they kind of let you out, and they don't really give you a ton of time to interview any of the players, but they also don't give you really much of a breather once you get out of practice, and now all of a sudden you have to talk. And I mean, you're talking to teams, you're talking to, different, analysts and different reporters and stuff like that. So I can only imagine, the type of, feeling and situation that kind of puts you in.
Yeah, like you said, I think what made the Senior Bowl more difficult in a way than the Combine is just the amount of stuff that we, packed into a week. We never had any time off. We were always on the go or doing something, where it was, like I said, having to be on the tip top of who you are and put your best foot forward. So I think, with the Combine, there's a little bit less, I think, and that helped because I went to the Senior Bowl because I had less psych tests and some less interviews just because I did a lot of them at the Senior Bowl. But the Senior Bowl you had no time off. You were never in your room, and so that's just what makes being there a week makes it more difficult.
Yeah. And then like real quick, because I one of the weirdest things ended up happening. I mean, they really never rained out practice before, and I happened to be there, and they told us practice was closed for the media, and you guys went over to that new facility in South Alabama. What was that experience like? Because it seemed like it was kind of spur of the moment. They kind of threw you into this small facility, and I mean, like I said, they couldn't really fit many people in there. So what was that whole thing like?
It was. You just kind of got to roll with the punches when you're there. It's kind of like you just throw that face on where nothing can really alter you. It is what it is. And when we left, or when we had to go to a new field, it was like, all right, like, I don't know, it's not something that needs to pay much thought to. Let's just get on the road and go do it and be done. So I didn't realize that they'd never done that before. So I just, like you said, you just show up and do your best.
And then, just real quick, we touched on, the toughest players that you went up against in college. But in your opinion, who was the toughest player you went up against in Mobile at the Senior Bowl?
Toughest player I went up against Mobile. I thought the Notre Dame running back, he had a really good week, in my opinion. I got to go do some one-on-one reps with him, and he was just, he's athletic, and I think he had a really good week. And it's tougher because the O-line doesn't really get to mesh well together, because they only get so much time. So it was a lot of individual work, and I thought there were some guys that I don't know if I could name by name, but that did a really good job. I think the center from like Bradbury or whatever, I think he had a really good week, and it's someone that I kind of remember going against, just having him climb up to me. So, but it's harder because you don't really get to prepare for them, so you don't really understand, really know their name that well. So it's like, but I just remember the competition being a level higher than everybody, because it's not like you're dealing with freshmen or sophomores. Like, everyone's the same age. We're all 21, 22, 23 years old. So, that makes the opponent and the competition a little bit more intense. So there's some good guys in there for sure.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a lot of fun, watching you guys go at it in one-on-ones. I do like the way they kind of set that up, and I mean, it's fun as it is covering it, it's also entertainment. I mean, you do have you have literal fans that go to that Lad People Stadium and watch you guys practice. So I always thought that was pretty awesome. But you did just get back from the NFL Combine. What can you tell us about the whole event? As a whole, and what was it like, from, the interviews to the field? I mean, the overall experience you had.
Through day in and day out, I felt like it was, I was almost like, this isn't that bad. I don't know what, from the people that came before me, I don't know why people said it was so hard. And because I love the interviews, I love talking ball and meeting with people, meeting with teams and stuff. That part of it is exciting to me, and I just, like I said, I just like talking football and showing what I know. But getting on the field on Sunday, I remember sitting there like, I feel every day of getting less sleep, having to sit in a chair all day long, hurrying up and waiting. It's on the field was the hardest part, just because I felt like I was out of my normal routine from what I had been training. I had to squeeze in like little tiny workouts, and I just not eating that much. So that part of it just kind of added up on the field later on. And but it's a great week, and it's how it has to be, and it was fun, and it allows us all to kind of come together and work hard and work through it together. So, but it's, I look forward to never really going back. It's something that has kind of held above my head for the last 8 or 9 months, just knowing that one day I was going to have to do it. And, but overall it was really fun. And I'm glad to be able to say that I went and got to go, because there's not a lot of people that do. So, I'm happy with it. It was fun, but I'm ready to kind of check that off and move on.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure that, there's a lot of anticipation and stress and a lot of emotions leading up to the combine. But, like you mentioned, it's really special, to be there and to get that opportunity. But, as you mentioned, I'm sure you're glad, very relieved that, you don't have to go through, all those emotions anymore. And, you've been through it. But, something that I'm just curious to ask, and, what is your biggest strength in your opinion as a player?
I think my instincts and, feel for the game. I think that helps me and allows me to be really productive. I think the way I prepare and my mental side of the game, being able to just retain a lot of knowledge or a lot of information, and kind of, I watch a ton of film, and I'm always feel like I have a good feel for what the offense is trying to do based off tendencies. So I don't know. I just think that I break the game down really well, and I have a, my mental part of it that I bring to the field is I don't know what helps me the most. But going back, I think that I take great angles, and I play well sideline to sideline. So I think those just all kind of add up together in the long run.
And then what is something that, or if there's anything that you're looking to improve on as the draft approaches?
As the draft approaches, I don't know. I think just continuing to get explosive and getting, continue to get stronger, because I know that at the next level you're dealing with grown men, and you're not playing receiver, or I'm not playing receiver cornerback, where so much of it's relying on athleticism. Playing in the boxes, you got to be a man. You got to be strong and get guys off you. So I think just continue to get stronger and more explosive, and just being ready to play at the next level.
Yeah, and then of course talking about the next level. Is there a player at the next level that you want to, force a fumble on or throw, pick off, in the NFL?
I think, there's, being able to pick off a quarterback that I've been watching for a while. I don't know. It'd be interesting to obviously play against like Sam or something like that, just to kind of throw it back to old times. Maybe make a play on him, or like even like a Tom Brady or Drew Brees. These guys that have done it for a long time. It'd just be kind of cool to be able to say like, oh yeah, I had an interception off him. So I think that part of it is fun, and you strive for those kind of things. But I don't know. I'm just excited to get an opportunity to go to a team and show what they got in me, and just contribute as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And us being a Rams podcast, I have to ask: have you met with the Los Angeles Rams yet? And if so, have you scheduled a private visit with them?
No, I met with them. I met with them at the Senior Bowl for a little bit, but no private visit, nothing like that. Just that's it.
Well, yeah, we certainly like to hear you met with them at the Senior Bowl, because, you're a guy who we would love to end up an LA Ram, but, we'll be fans of you no matter where you go. And we just, like you a lot as a player. And Just to kind of wrap this up, who is Cameron Smith the player and who is he as a person?
I think as a player, I'm very intense. I'm a guy that, I'm very critical of myself, and I like to be perfect as much as I can on the field. Off the field, I think that I'm very broad and I have a wide range of interests that I kind of look to do, off the field, and I just feel like I'm constantly doing something and interested in something new, and so I think that kind of makes me who I am off the field, and so that people don't just say football is who he is. I like when people are diverse and they have a lot that they are interested off the field. So I think that's where I am in that point.
Yeah, it makes plenty of sense, and it's really cool that you were able to take some time out of your busy schedule and do an interview with us. We really appreciate it. We'll be fans of you for life, and no matter where you go, we'll be rooting for you. Hope you stay healthy throughout this process. I don't know when your pro day is, but I hope you kill it, and let's stay in touch, man.
Yep. Thank you.
Attention USC fans, are you looking for your Trojans football podcast? Well, we have it for you. It's Downtown Trojans, and it's available now only on the Downtown Sports Network.